All right, so I guess the Street Fighter 6 thing is actually a closed beta, so who knows if I'll even get into it. So I guess I'll do a video just of a quick thing of what I would, and I don't even have a fucking computer to play it technically, but I'll just do a quick overview of the things that I saw that again I would suggest people try immediately because it's what I immediately thought within 5 seconds when I watched the footage. Which again, I actually didn't even realize, and I've said this before. I think games are way too beta tested nowadays. I had totally forgot that if you recall when people were originally talking about Street Fighter 6, I was not even in America and video games are a passing hobby of mine, so to speak. So it was a while before I even watched Street Fighter 6, so I forgot that Street Fighter 6 was already originally shown quite a few months ago. So who knows? I don't know exactly when the game comes out, but I've always said that I actually think it's terrible that I've been able to accurately predict all these video games for like 20 years. Video games should not be as tested as they are. I think they're too tested now. Just like when I've given examples of some of the best, bugs in video games. You think about a game like Guilty Gear. I know I'm going off on a tangent here. Look at a bug like Impossible Dust in Guilty Gear. Little bugs in games are okay, and sometimes they actually make the game more interesting. So I really hope this game is not beta tested to death because, again, I actually think it's not good that I've been able to predict all these games so accurately because it just it's I shouldn't be able to do that. I shouldn't, I know I'm a smart motherfucker, unfortunately, and that I've been doing this for like 20 years accurately, which I could be wrong. It could be eventually. I'm due for an L eventually, but here's the shit that again I would try when I look at the footage for the first 5 seconds. One, we got Ryu. I'm not gonna draw, am I? I'm not gonna draw. I put up the thing. I'm too tired today. I'm not gonna draw, but Ryu. First thing I would have tested. We've showed this before. This is his. Yeah, he's doing his axe kick, yeah, and he swings down on the guy's nutsack. Maybe it's not a nutsack. I've said before, you know what I mean? Again, a lot of this stuff does with the green slime or drive rush, whatever it's called. Oh, that's not green. You fucked me up. You motherfucker. Give me a green there, green drive. So I've showed before, one of the first things I would have tested when I saw how the game system was working. Green Slimer Rush does more stun when you do an attack, but we have seen multi-hitting moves do more stun for the entire duration of the move, even multiple hits, right? So just like I said, I don't know why no one didn't try with Ken. Do Ken's Hurricane Kick, Flaming Hurricane Kick. From what we have seen, the precedent is if a move is a multi-hitting single move, the entire duration of the move does more stun. So why no one did Ken's Flaming Hurricane Kick? Because we can see Ken's Flaming Hurricane Kick, unlike the regular Hurricane Kick, which is Akuma's Hurricane Kick, which is stupid, which you Dragon Punch after it. We've seen that Hurricane Kick is the old kind of school Hurricane Kick with the flame effect, where it leaves you about at even. But we know multi-hit moves that leave you about at even are allowing you to link with like mediums after a drive green slimer rush. So the precedent is telling us that you should be able to link off of Ken's flaming hurricane kick. As a matter of fact, I would say based off of what we have seen, it would not logically make sense if that is not how it works. And I would even say it's potentially bad game design because when you put in a certain kind of rule and it applies for 99.9% of every move in the game, but then you're like, oh, I don't want it to work with this one move, Ken's Hurricane Kick, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I actually think that's bad game design. So if that actually doesn't work, unless there's some other kind of caveat or asterisk mark to how drive rush works, I would say that's actually bad game design. That there's some kind of you're just picking and choosing which moves are allowed to use the property that is how the game works 99.9% of the time otherwise. So again, that Ken example I was giving, I know I'm not exactly at the Ryu thing. The Ken example is, you know what I mean? We have the idea of Ken either when he does a drive rush, green slimer rush, either he has the stand fierce or whatever normally you're doing, and to green drive rush, the next attack does more stun. Then you whiff dash, whatever, link off of it. See how much damage that does compared to a green drive rush to flaming hurricane kick. Because the game, from what we have seen, says you should be able to combo off of that. Now, one caveat we don't know, because no one has showed it yet, is for a single move, so to speak, that is technically a single move, but you input a different button. Say Ken does this crazy kick, crazy funky kicks, right? So when you input the other button, although it's a single special move, after that other button, it's still technically a two-hit special move. Can you link off of it? So what I'd be getting at there is just like how it looks like they're homogenizing. A lot of characters all have a high-low rush mix-up, whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe Ken's version of that is when he green rushes, he can either do a regular low, whatever, or he can green rush in, throw, or DP, whatever mix-up, or he does funky kick, and then whatever funky kick he does after it, maybe now, although it looks like it normally leaves you at even after the low version of it or the high version, overhead version, maybe you can then link off that. That's a caveat because we haven't seen anything in the game. There's no proof that that's how a special move will work when it's multiple inputs, but again, I think it's something worth trying, right? And the Ryu axe kick thing is there's a precedent we've seen in video games, and I've showed it before, and I showed it in that Tekken vs Street Fighter. And the Tekken vs Street Fighter is an extreme example, and it's funny because I did that very early on in Tekken vs Street Fighter. I showed that multi-hitting moves, if you can cancel both hits of a multi-hitting move in Tekken vs Street Fighter, and you cancel the first hit of the move, the game fucks up and it does not consider that that first hit was actually a part of the new property that it has. Now, it's wasn't something that, every character could use, but I showed a character like Akuma. Normally you can only juggle 4 times. And if you look at that Akuma video, he's juggling with all sorts of shit. So what I was getting at, an easy example to try this would be do Ryu. You run in after the green drive rush, you do Ryu's axe kick. First hit causes the green effect. Now we know the move is already kind of a pre-planned move that it's supposed to do another green effect for the second kick as he's coming down. But if you cancel the first hit and then say you go into the palm strike, does the palm strike then, although technically a separate move, now count as the green drive rush with more stun, right? So Ryu could be doing combos. Who knows? Maybe drive rush in, first hit of the axe kick, it causes the green splat, but you canceled it before it does the second hit, so the game thinks that you haven't done it for some reason, and you do your palm strike, and maybe it does more stun. Again, there are many precedents that this is how this has worked in other games. So I definitely think it's something that I would try immediately. You know what I mean? Again, no one has tried. I have not seen a single green drive rush into drive impact. I think that's a very obvious example of something that I would try because your attacks do more stun. So after you green drive rush, do an attack, then see if it hits with the drive impact, if it will combo. Because looking at the footage, it's only a few frames of missing in the first place from being a true combo from a heart attack anyway. So that would lead me to believe that that works. And then when the guy is very close to that gray meter where they can actually be dizzied, I would assume there are very big combos in the corner. Combo to drive rush, blah, blah, blah. Drive impact because now it combos, now the guy's dizzy, blah, 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 blah. Which even then gets into another thing. I would be curious if you drive impact a guy with a green splash effect of a move, does that fuck up the game and carry over as well with the dizzy? Because again, that's another bug that is in so many fucking Street Fighters. Street Fighter 2, think about what happens when you dizzy a guy with the throw. When the guy is dizzy, then after that, they still have properties of actually they've just been thrown. Look at the Street Fighter Alpha series. If certain moves, if it is the move that dizzies the guy, the next time you try to combo the guy, the dizzy does not work the same. There's just, these kind of bugs are in so many fucking games. So I would be interested in seeing if dizzy the guy with a drive impact, drive impact green rush move, whatever. See if that carries over some kind of fucking properties. Which unfortunately, it seems so obvious to me, and games are so highly beta tested now that they would not let that happen. But I mean, that is something too. I have not seen anyone just do, people are just doing green drive rush into attacks, but what about just straight up do a green drive rush into the drive impact immediately? Does that drive impact then? It's technically a green drive rush impact. Does that now do more stun? Does that mean even when it breaks the guy's guard, is the guy stunned for longer? I would assume there is a priority system in place for at least that aspect. You know what I mean? But again, it's not something that anyone has showed that they've actually tested. But again, it seems like very simple stuff that you should test because there's precedence of it working like that in other games. Another thing, again, people have not been using the jump with the drive rush. I would assume from what it looks like, unless they took it out or something. It was only in very early footage that someone showed you could jump with the drive rush. I would assume that, say, characters like you have a whatever a are they going to call it a crush counter or whatever the fuck they're going to call it? You do a crush counter move. You do some kind of punish move. You green fucking slimer drive rush the crush impact move. You already knew it's doing extra more stun. So then maybe say Ryu, whatever his crush counter move is, whatever, maybe it's a stand roundhouse. Crush counter stand roundhouse. It hits that crush counter state, so they're doing even more. Green drive rush jump in, jump roundhouse. Now the jump roundhouse does more stun, whatever it might be, right? Since that does more stun, now that actually combos to Ryu's rush fierce. Maybe do a rush fierce. You know what I mean? Whatever. Couple of hits. Green drive rush that in. You know what I mean? I think that's 6 bars. That might be all your bar, whatever. You know what I mean? Then you axe kick. Then maybe that bug is in the game. Axe kick to palm strike. Now that does more stun. Then you do a link off of that. You combo to something more, whatever. You know what I mean? I feel like the combo routes in this game are already. I could probably post entire combo routes for the game. Just like can you imagine? Should I do the same thing that I did? Should I post exact combo routes for all the game like Dragon Ball Fighter Z like I did before the game came out? You know what I mean? Like you could. These are the exact combos you're gonna be in Dragon Ball Fighter Z. People know you can't do that. And I'll put out. Oh yeah, all this. I feel like I could do that for this game. It feels so obvious. There's just a couple of like question marks, but again, the precedents are already for them there to work like that. And for some of the stuff, like I say, Ken's flaming hurricane kick, it would actually be weird if that doesn't work because that would mean that there's either some kind of caveat to the system how it works that was not told, or there is a fucking they're picking and choosing which moves are allowed to be drive rushed with, which is actually bad game design. So I wouldn't even be mad if Ken's flaming hurricane kick didn't do that, or if they like took it out for certain moves. Because why would you make rules for just certain moves? That would be retarded. Possible, but retarded. The Ken crazy kick to higher low. That's a bit of an asterisk mark because we have not seen any footage of even if it's a single move. If you press a different button, if it still counts as that singular move, but it could. You know what I mean? Even stuff say like if it doesn't, I mean, if it still counts as a singular move, look at Ken's stuff like, man, Ken has the EX crazy kicks. The EX crazy kicks actually have 3 different follow-ups. Some actually slide you against the ground. Does that mean, is there some kind of weird property actually put into the game that green sliding against the ground moves actually you can juggle after? And that's another thing too, speaking of juggles that I want to see, is I want to see, because the game has that anti-air counter hit system where you can actually juggle the guy again then. That seems like another very obvious thing that should be tested. Say Ryu again does a guy jumps at you, you do a counter hit stand roundhouse. Now we know because in this game you can counter hit jump ins and then juggle off of like King of Fighters. But what if you drive rush that? Drive rush in, jump in, then it counter hits the guy again? Or are there different kind of effects for a green counter hit? A green drive rush counter hit? If we're even thinking about jumping, look at the Street Fighter games that when you have different properties of jumping, there are actually bugs that can come in. Like say Alpha 3. Alpha 3 has those jump kind of bugs or whatever. Like you put the guy in that juggle state, after Viism, and then you can consistently juggle the guy over and over. Maybe there are going to be wacky juggle kind of things like that with fucking, this. Green drive rush in, I counter hit you in a weird way. Oh, I hit the guy. and I keep hitting the guy. Even CVS2 has bugs like that, dude. CVS2, you do the fucking not only I feel like the most famous versions of it are like the Kim Infinite, which some people still think give me the credit for the Kim Infinite, right? I didn't come up with the Kim Infinite in CVS2. I just found a way to do it. It was originally the Cyrec guys. They had the original idea for it, and then I thought about it and I made it work, so to speak. But I can't take full credit for it. So, but I think that's like a very famous kind of CVS2 bug. Keep it storing properties and moves. But even CVS2, if you've actually played that game, say a character like Ryo, you do custom or you do level 2 super to jump or whatever, and you can do jump attacks, and then actually after your jump attacks juggle, you can even then juggle with ground attacks, which normally aren't possible because of the jumping. When you land for those few frames, it stays, right? It has those kind of bugs like that. I think even Kyosuke's Infinite might involve that a little bit, right? So these kind of bugs, there are precedents in so many fucking video games that they all work like quotation marks. They all work like this, quotation marks, or they have a sort of version of it, right? So, you know what I mean? You gotta, let's say you're standing on the shoulder of giants, you know what I mean? You gotta know where you're coming from. These video games, like people act like, how do you predict games accurately, over and over and over again? It's like, because I've played the old games. I know how they work. I know what to look for. You know what I mean? So some of this stuff, I will say that is a potential grain of salt because we haven't seen proof of it, but there are at least precedents that they work like that in other games. So why they are not tested immediately, I don't know. And some of the stuff is so brain dead obvious. It's like the Ken Flaming Hurricane kick. Why did no one not try that even once? You know what I mean? So again, there's different levels of obviousness, I guess. Some stuff is just right in your fucking face. I feel like should have been tried, but you know what I mean? So, I mean, those are simple things. The green drive rush, like I said, the Kimberly thing, it's her special move where she jumps on you. Normally it's a mix-up, but because you have more green stun, does that mean green rush? Now it's not a mix-up, it's a true combo. These seems like very obvious things for me to try. So, yeah, again, those seem like the obvious things to try. I still want to see stuff like, what is Ryu has a new auto combo. Like, what is the purpose of that? I'd like to see that. Do some. Has anyone even done a full 3-hit auto combo with drive rush? You know what I mean? Does that have some different properties or something? Like some of these drive rushes, they knock you in the air. What if you just like drive rush the third hit of an auto combo? You know what I mean? Can you juggle off of that? I mean, there just seems like so many simple things that would only take 5 seconds to try if a developer was giving you the game for a day. And fuck, like I said, I forgot this game was shown fucking in June. So multiple people have gotten a couple of times to try it, which is just absolutely crazy. And I gotta shit on the Maximilian guy because like I said, he used to link to my videos. He used to follow me. I have fucking helped these motherfuckers with Dragon Ball FighterZ. They wanted to pretend they didn't know me. Then on streams like, oh no, I don't know who Clay. It's not Clay. And then people are like, oh yeah, we like Clay. And then Max is like, oh okay, yeah, it was Clayton. Dude, you got fucking millions of followers. You have made how much money off of this game now? And you were afraid to admit that your knowledge came from me? No respect. No respect. These guys aren't that fucking smart if you think about it with that kind of stuff, dude. But yeah, again, I guess does the game count? Is it a couple weeks or whatever? I guess there's a thing, like I said, I don't even have the computer to play it. I don't even know if I'd get into it. Thank you for the donations for sure. Some people have donated. I do appreciate that. But these are very simple things that I would try if you get into the beta. I know I were a couple weeks early, but some of these things are so simple. You know what I mean? Some things a little bit more complicated, but all you need is a proof of concept, dude. Look at Dragon Ball FighterZ. Look at the fucking cell loops, dude. All I asked was like, dude, someone just You know, the Cell loop, I was like, dude, someone just cancel the first hit of Cell's fucking swipe fireball. We see that it hits twice. Someone just do the flip. See if you recover in time. And the game was beta tested for 6 months and no one would do it. And that's why the whole reason I even knew the Cell loop, it's such an obvious example. I watched just, and it was boring. I just watched Scrubs play and I'm like, please, let me just watch Scrubs play, go through all these hours of footage. And I'm like, let me just hope somebody's mashing on buttons. And hopefully someone mashes on a button after the first swipe. And hopefully I see him move. And then I see the second hit of the fireball hit. And finally I saw footage, someone did it. And I'm like, oh, this is going to work. Someone should try it. And no one wanted to try. That's a 5-second thing to try, dude. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, it's going to work. Cell loop works. That's why I was able to do all the that's why I was able to do all this stuff because I'm like, just look for proof that it works. It's not that hard. Like 5 seconds. Show that it works or it doesn't. If it doesn't work, erase it. You know what I mean? Keep it in the back of your mind in case, you know, they switch these beta tests because they're beta testing and add new properties. You know, it's too much beta testing. And if it works, you're like, oh, we have proof this works. Now we apply it to the puzzle. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, just take 5 seconds. You've been playing, you've been invited to Capcom. You guys get invited to play the game for an entire day over and over. It's like, oh, Capcom said that when you do a green drive rush, your next attack does more stun. Sweet. Just drive rush, they just do, you know, the same thing. It's like, well, they said it does more stun. And they're like, oh yeah, well, we did Ryu's overhead and it does more stun. Isn't that amazing? It's like, well, it's sweet, it does more stun. Can you look if you can actually get some different kind of shit with these other moves, dude? Like, it just, it's so obvious stuff to try. And if it doesn't work, it's like, okay, we did it. That piece doesn't fit in the puzzle, right? These games aren't that complicated, dude. If you know what you're looking for, I admit that it's boring. You know, like I said, when I looked at Dragon Ball Fighters, it was so boring to watch that shit. But I'm like, God, no one even wanted to try shit. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna prove I'm the best ever again. You know what I mean? Like I can look at these games and, yep, I'm right. I'm right again. I'm right again. I'm right. Give me a fucking. I'm jacking myself off. Fucking suck it. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Anyway, the only new thing I said here that I didn't mention in another video is I forgot. I have not seen anyone do just a drive rush. And I know I've been talking about do a lot of the drive rush, do a stand fierce into a drive impact because it only barely doesn't combo. You know what I mean? During regular. So you would assume with the extra stun it would combo. So you would assume, unless there's another kind of caveat that we don't know about, should combo if they're against the corner, juggle if they're with the no guard, if there are no drive bar, no non-binary, transgender, gender fluid bar, it's going to dizzy. Huge dizzy combo potential stuff, I'm sure. But the one thing I forgot to mention in these other videos that I didn't mention is what about just straight up green drive rush and your first attack is drive impact? Does the drive impact then have more stun too? Which actually I think would be kind of fun, actually, because then maybe you're wasting even extra meter. You know what I mean? You used even more bar to then make the drive impact actually, the guard break is actually guaranteed into a combo, which I actually think is would actually be kind of interesting. But I would assume there is a priority system offhand that probably drive impact probably overrides that. But again, no proof because no one has even tried that yet, right? And then if that doesn't override it, of course, there's also stuff. We have so many things that can dizzy you in Street Fighter 2 games, Street Fighter Alpha games. When something can dizzy you and you dizzy somebody with a move that has special property, it often carries over that property even after the guy is dizzy and it makes the move affect differently. So that is, again, something, what if you're at a green drive rush immediately into drive impact? That way to dizzy the guy. Would it carry over the green Slimer effect to your next attack? It seems a little far-fetched, but again, there are precedents that is how multiple Capcom games have even worked. Not just Street Fighter 2, even the Street Fighter Alpha series and going forward, there are multiple series that have had bugs like this. even when you talk about guys rolling and everything like that. So, yeah, I mean, I could probably even get into more some tech stuff. I feel like I'm mostly talking about tech stuff, but I have seen some tech stuff that I haven't seen anyone talk about, but I don't want to blow people's brains too much so far. Anyway, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel if you want. Super chat, PayPal, Patreon. Thanks, I appreciate it. The end.